The longer a man is single, the more dangerous he becomes. Not in a toxic way, but in a mastered, focused, and intentional way. Because solitude, when used correctly, doesn't break a man, it builds him. It teaches him to think deeply, move wisely, and live without needing to be constantly needed. In this world, many rush into relationships just to avoid silence. But a man who can sit with silence is a man who becomes unstoppable. He starts realizing peace is a superpower, time is wealth, discipline is freedom. And most of all, not everyone deserves access to his world. The longer he's single, the more he shapes his identity, sharpens his vision, heals his wounds, and becomes dangerous to anything trying to pull him off purpose. He stops seeking approval, he starts seeking alignment. He becomes a man with standards, boundaries, and vision. This video is not about staying single forever. It's about using singleness as a season of growth, not a period of waiting. We'll explore the hidden power of masculine solitude, the mindset that transforms a man in silence, and the rare wisdom that's forged in the fire of isolation. Like, share, and subscribe if you're ready to take your life to the next level. And comment below if you've ever felt yourself evolving in silence. Now let's get into the first chapter. Chapter 1. The longer he's alone, the more he learns to lead himself. Most people think singleness means something's missing, but for a man on a mission, singleness means something's being built. When a man is alone, truly alone, without distractions, without external validation, he has no one to rely on but himself. And that is where transformation begins. He learns to face his thoughts, not escape them. He learns to structure his days instead of being pulled in 10 directions. He starts asking questions most avoid. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I truly want? What weaknesses do I need to confront to become stronger? This is where a man becomes dangerous, because now he's no longer driven by need, he's driven by vision. Let's take an example from history. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, ruled an empire, fought wars, and yet found his deepest clarity in solitude. He wrote meditations not for the world, but for himself. He used isolation not to hide, but to lead himself first, because a man who cannot lead himself in quiet cannot lead anyone in chaos. The longer a man is single, the more he learns to organize his mind, master his time, and protect his energy. He starts treating his space like a sanctuary, not a showroom. He filters out shallow conversations, empty entertainment, and relationships with no purpose. He starts choosing discipline over dopamine. And slowly, a new version of him emerges. One that doesn't depend on being wanted, but one that is defined by his values. Asian wisdom says, a man who conquers himself is greater than one who conquers 1,000 men in battle. This is not a metaphor, this is a map. Because in singleness, a man begins to see the difference between movement and progress, between attention and respect, between lust and love. He becomes harder to impress, not because he's arrogant, but because he's evolved. He's not looking to be completed. He's building a life that's already whole. And that's why the longer he's single, the more powerful he becomes. Because now, he's walking with intention, not wandering in loneliness. Drop a comment below. I lead myself first. Chapter 2. The longer he's single, the higher his standards become. Time alone doesn't make a man bitter. It makes him better. Not because he's afraid to love, but because he's no longer willing to settle for survival over connection, or chemistry over character. The more time a man spends with himself, the more he realizes what he truly deserves. He starts to understand that peace is not negotiable, that forced connections are too expensive. They cost time, energy, focus, and sometimes your identity. He no longer dates out of boredom, loneliness, or ego. He waits, not for perfection, but for alignment. Here's a real-world example. Think about a man who's building his business, hitting the gym daily, reading, meditating, healing, and setting goals. Now ask yourself, does that man want to come home to emotional chaos? He wants peace, partnership, and purpose. That's why the longer he's single, the more refined his standards become. Not just in women, but in friends, conversations, environments, and even the way he speaks to himself. He begins to realize that every person in his life is either adding to his mission or distracting him from it. This is when others say, "You've changed." And they're right. Because a man who has tasted his own power, his own peace, and his own growth will never go back to living on emotional crumbs. He becomes a man of clarity, one who would rather walk alone than shrink to fit into someone else's world. The deeper truth is this: love is not supposed to save you, it's supposed to grow with you. And a man who has been single long enough to grow on his own won't be fooled by shallow attraction. He waits for depth, intentionality, and shared vision. This wisdom is echoed in Lao Tzu's words: "He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened." And the longer a man is single, the more he learns both. So when he finally chooses to commit, it's not out of pressure, fear, or habit. It's out of strength, discernment, and full awareness of what he brings to the table. That's the kind of man who doesn't just love, he leads in love. Drop a comment below. I raise my standards, not my voice.